What's up, guys? This is Ray. I'm here today with this month's Patreon sponsored movie review. And today we'll be talking about the 2019 Japanese movie We Are Little Zombies, directed by Nagahisa Makoto. And I believe this is his directorial debut, or at least for feature length films. And it's definitely my first time seeing one of his movies. And actually, I was able to catch We Are Little Zombies in the cinema, but not at one of my usual big theaters, which I go to, which releases all the newest movies and all. I'd actually go to one of the smaller theaters here in town. But I initially heard about this movie because it was making waves at a few film festivals such as Sundance, and because it was making waves and I saw that it was making its way to theaters here in Japan, I decided, yeah, definitely had to check it out. And We Are Little Zombies, it's a quirky, unique little tale. It's, if you take a look at the trailers, you notice that there's kind of an 8-bit video game aesthetic in it all, and that includes the soundtrack, which I'll get into a little bit later. But it's about these four youths, these four 13-year-olds. We have Hikari, who's basically the lead character, and we also have Ishii, Takemura, and Ikuko. And these four kids meet when their parents have all passed away and they're all getting cremated. And so basically these 13-year-olds are all orphaned. And so these four find companionship with each other. And something unique that these four have in common is that even though their parents have passed away, they don't really exhibit any kind of emotions or symptoms of mourning or anything like that. They're just kind of disconnected. They're kind of desensitized to it all. And so these four get together, and they do what any group of individuals would do in this kind of situation, and is that they form a band. And for the band, they name themselves, as you can guess, Little Zombies, and they become a viral hit. And the story just kind of gets weirder and unique from there. And as far as the positives of We Are Little Zombies, I think the first thing that I actually enjoy that you get introduced to from very early in the story is the hyper fast editing that this movie takes you through. Like, scenes transition to another very quickly, and not only the scenes, the way they're spliced together really quick, but also the dialogue. It felt like the dialogue was as quick fire and rapid as the editing, and it felt because of the editing and because of the dialogue, you get taken through the scenes very quickly, and a lot of stuff happens within a short amount of time. And also the performances of the four titular characters, I thought it was good. I mean, these are obviously young kids. They play 13-year-olds. I don't know off the top of my head how old the actual performers were, but I thought, considering how young they are, they actually exhibited quite a bit of range. Well, not really a range in emotions. I'm just talking about the way they exhibited their performances. They obviously had a lot of dialogue to spit out, and not only that, the way the characters move, the way the performers move on screen, and the way everything was framed. There's quite a good amount of scenes which were obviously not simple or easy ones that you can just nail in just one take. There are quite a bit of scenes that required well thought out positioning and all that. And each of these characters had unique backstories. Like, you had the main character Hikari. His parents died in an automobile accident. Ikuko, the only girl in the story, her parents died because of an obsessive piano teacher who murdered her parents. Ishii, his parents died in an accident involving a gas explosion. And Takemura, his parents, I think, died in some kind of suicide incident. But you get to see these happenings very early in the story. And it's just interesting because usually when you have characters with these kinds of really dark backstories, these characters would be kind of emo, kind of dark and gloomy, but not these characters. These characters are still, they talk in a very dry manner. They still have their senses of humor, and they carry on like nothing really happened, like nothing bothers them. And I think that's a very unique part of the storytelling of this movie is, looking at characters and how they're disconnected with these kinds of emotions, and how they're just ultimately desensitized by everything. And you actually get to go into each of these characters' backstories, towards the beginning of the story. Like, the way the story arcs are told in this movie is that it's told through different episodes. It's as if you're playing a game, and that's where part of the aesthetic is. Each of these characters' stories are told through different chapters, as if they were a quest in a video game. You get to go through all these different quests, and it's labeled appropriately throughout the story. And there's a lot of inspiration from video games, particularly from the 8-bit and 16-bit era. A lot of the music was done through chiptune, the kind of music you expect in those old style video games, and I absolutely love the soundtrack. I found myself just listening to the music, just being enchanted by it, just because I come from a generation which loved that generation of video games. And you get a lot of playful scenes that kind of are also reminiscent of those movies. Like there's one scene where the camera view is from top down, from high up, way above where these characters are walking. They're walking in a straight line, and each character is following behind another, as if, you know, it was replicating those old school RPGs from back in the day. And every time you complete a story arc or mission or chapter or whatever have you, it says that these characters gain a certain item at the end of it, just as if it was a video game. And I think this video game aesthetic comes from Hikari, because he's kind of like this, he gets bullied a lot, but he escapes a lot into his video games. He has a whole collection of video games at home, and he loves playing them. And you know, when they form the band, he uses his game system to generate the chiptune, which is predominant in the songs that the band performs. And each of the other characters, they play their own thing. Like Ishii's on the drums, Ikuko's on the keyboard, and Takamura's on the bass. And you know how he said the characters form band? Well, obviously they do perform music, although I'm not sure how much of the actual music is performed by the performers. But at least the characters, they have kind of like this rock chiptune hybrid kind of band. And you know, I think it's actually quite addicting to listen to. Like if you can go on YouTube, you can look up the song "We Are Little Zombies" and see the music video. That music video is actually lifted from that exact scene in the movie, and I found myself just going back and listening to it. It's quite an earworm, if I may say. And you know, I think the way the singing is, it's kind of flat. The way the singing was delivered, it was just flat, almost emotionless. But the lyrics are kind of dark. It's definitely past the ages of the people who are singing it. I'm gonna go to the negatives of "We Are Little Zombies," and something that I'm actually kind of half and half about. I don't know if I'm leaning more towards the positives or negatives with this with this next part, but this movie is packed with a lot of different themes and subgenres. You know, at times it felt like a dark comedy, you know, just given the way these characters react to their parents passing. And then at times it could be a musical of sorts. Like when the kids first form their band, they actually meet this group of homeless people who are performing songs like on a banjo and some drums and all that. And not only that, this movie takes you through different genres of music. You have scenes that feature classical music when it comes to piano. You have scenes with bluegrass, as with the aforementioned scenes with the homeless folks. You even have rock, like Takamura's brother is part of a rock band. So basically all these musical influences come together and influence the Little Zombies' own kind of music. And this movie can also be considered a drama when you take a look at the way these characters react to the world around them, how people react to these characters and all. You know, I would chalk it up more towards a drama. But you have all these things packed into this story, and it feels very clustered at a lot of times. But at the same time, each movement is entertaining. I think the movie takes its time to explore each of its own little subgenres. I think it's cool, but I kind of have mixed feelings about how much information is included in this. It almost feels schizophrenic at times. But despite all the subgenres squeezed into this movie, in addition to the hyperfast editing, this movie just felt like it ran for a bit too long. I felt like you can probably scrape off a good 20 minutes of the movie and still have the same effect, but I felt like towards the last 20 minutes of the movie, it just felt like, we could just end this movie right now, or, they're just really putting things on just to drag the story out a bit longer. But overall, what do I have to say about We Are Little Zombies? Despite it being kind of overstuffed and too long, I generally find myself enjoying it. I think for me, the strongest part were the performances of the four young kids. And that's because these are the kind of performances you would expect from actors this young. And there's a lot to unpack when it comes to the subgenres that are explored in this movie, as well as the characters. Like obviously with the subgenres I mentioned, you had the family drama, you had really kind of surreal musical elements in this movie, and a lot of dark comedy, as well as just exploring how internet culture reacts to a viral hit. Like these kids, when they first form their band, they get the help of a guy who helps them get big on Twitter and I think YouTube. And you have all these subgenres packed into one, but because of all these subgenres, it gets pretty messy. But I kind of I'm still, like I said, I'm still half and half about how it felt about everything being clustered, because it still was entertaining nonetheless. But I think at its core, it's a very unique coming-of-age story, just exploring how these four youths deal with the passing of their parents, how they, cope by hanging out with each other, and how they grow from there. Do I recommend this movie? Maybe. I feel like if you're a fan of indie movies and know what to expect, then this movie will be pretty entertaining to you. But I feel like if you're more of a fan of movies that get worldwide theatrical releases, easy to watch movies, this movie may not, just because of the way the amount of themes explored in this movie, the way the dialogue is delivered, and the surreal imagery that happens progressively as the story goes on. Like I feel like it won't cater to every single audience out there. But it does have things to keep you if you're kind of not a fan of indie movies. Like the soundtrack, I think the soundtrack is interesting, well, at least for me being an old school gamer. And the way they use this video game aesthetic, more than just in the soundtrack, but just the way and the overall presentation of it all. I think that adds a lot of flavor to it. But yeah, don't go into this movie expecting streamlined camera work or storytelling. Expect to see a lot more experimental techniques when it comes to everything. But anyways, yes, those are my thoughts on We Are Little Zombies. What did you guys think? Please let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. And if you're new to my channel, please subscribe. And if you really dig my content, please know you can support Eiga-Man Ray via Patreon from as little as $1. Same as the lovely folks who helped sponsor this video today. And yeah, that's about it for me, guys. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching. Hope to catch you all again in the next video. Take it easy.